your clap emoji, the fire emojis to give a warm welcome to Olalekan Akinsande. Hi, Lekan. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here today. And can you hear me loud and clear? Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Without further ado, I know we're going to be spending about an hour and 30 minutes on this conversation. So it's going to be in two parts. Would have the parts where I would, introduce you to prompt engineering. All right. And then we'll have an hands-on session also where we're going to, literally just build our own GPT, right? That's going to be trained on, some data that we'll get from the data scientist networks website. And I trust that it's going to be a fantastic time. So please, let's make it interactive. It's not a lecture, right? It's just a knowledge sharing session, all right? It's a knowledge sharing session. And as much as possible, I want us to make sure to interact. I'll make sure that there is enough time for questions and answer. And I would also make sure that, everyone is able to follow through so that at the end of the day, we feel like the next, 1 hour, 30 minutes, 90 minutes is fantastic. It's impactful and all of that. So I'm going to also set my timer because I'm so passionate about these things, sharing knowledge. So I tend to overshoot my time. So I've set my timer so that once it's about time, it will remind me, and then I'll be able to wind down. All right. So let's go straight into it. I'm going to share my screen right now, and we'll start with the slides, right? We'll start with the slides, and yeah, let me see. Okay, so I think my slides should be up. Okay, so let's start. Understanding prompt engineering, and like I said, we would have a lab session where we would build a GPT web application. You will love it. I promise you will love it. So, but before we get into it, let me just, that introduction. I'm a data scientist with the MasterCard Foundation, an AI engineer, a software engineer. I also like to call myself a behavioral scientist. Behavioral scientist because I have an education background in behavioral sciences, psychology to be specific. And I know a lot of people ask me, how did you even move from a non-tech background, academic background into tech? I get that question a lot. And I know that a lot of people would even be here today who are probably not studying computer science or statistics in their program in school. So I've done a lot of interviews, all right, that I've answered those questions and also help people who are also trying to find their footing, right? And one of such interview is the one I had with Stories from Nigeria. Let me just get that link for you. I think it's right here. Control C. So I drop that in the chat. So if you love to just look at it later on, I think it's quite interesting. I mean, for me, the last time I even read that story, even me, I felt like, this story, I need to tell it to more people. So if you would love to, you can check that story. But it could also, it can help you, at least from my own point of view, how that your academic background or your whatever background it is, right, is not always a determinant, right, to what your career prospects will look like, right? It means that you can become whoever you want to be. You can do whatever you want to do in this world, and you do really well at it. All right, so enough of the motivational speaking. Let's get back into what we're about to talk about. Prompt engineering. So by way of introduction, I mean, let me even ask. Let me ask. I know a lot of people are right there physically, but I'm going to ask if you could just put it in the chat. How many of us have heard of the word prompt engineering? If you've heard of the word prompt engineering, just give me a yes. If not, give me a no. Let me just get a feel of those who have heard of. Okay, no, yes, no, yes, yeah. Okay, no, I haven't. Okay, good, yes, okay. It looks to me like we have an equal distribution of people who have heard of prompt engineering and those who have not. Okay, that's fine. Let me ask the second question. Okay, well, this is not like a question because I know that virtually everybody must have a yes to this. But is there anyone here who doesn't know anything about Python programming? Anyone? Anyone? I don't think so. I don't think so. Okay, so good. What that means is that the basic requirements, right, for this session, right, is just the basic knowledge of Python programming. And I tell you, if you can follow me step by step, I will make sure I'm very, very detailed. I haven't gone through this presentation. When we get into the lab session, I believe that everybody on this call today definitely would be able to, I mean, add it to their portfolio that they've actually built a custom GPT before, right? I think that's like a promise. If you are able to follow me and then ask questions anytime you feel like you're confused, all right? So for the sake of those who haven't heard of, Python is like primary education for most of us. Exactly. Thank you. Thank you for that. That's very true. All right. So introduction. Now, crafting prompts is very similar to giving instructions to a language model. So when we talk about prompt engineering, right, one of the things I want you all to understand is that it just means that you're very creative, all right, in the way you give an instruction, all right, to a language model. And of course, I believe we all know what a language model is. You think of it like a machine learning or an AI model, right, that has been trained on a lot of language content, all right, that's been trained on a lot of language content. So when I now give you that model, right, I give you that platform that has been trained, for instance, GPT 3.5, we read was trained on about 175 million parameters. Billion parameters, 175 billion parameters. That's a lot. That's like the whole of the internet. If you get what I mean, it's like the whole of the internet. Now imagine you have the internet at your fingertip. How do you search? All right. How do you drill the internet such that it's able to give you a response that you want? And that, in essence, is what prompt engineering is all about. How do you, drill in on a language model? In this case, for instance, let's say, ChatGPT model or a GPT for all model. How do we drill it into it? And then it gives us a response that we want. So that's what the first part of this conversation is going to be about, where we're just going to look at how do we even do this in reality. All right. So it influences the outcome and the response that we receive. Then second point here is that the way we structure prompts, all right, can shape the tone, the style, the accuracy, and even the ethical consideration of AI generated content. Meaning that, remember, a prompt in this case is what is an input. And just to even give everyone a good understanding or educational or literary understanding of what GPT is all about, that is generative pre-trained transformers. Now, what they are all about, right, is it's an AI framework, all right? And transformers, for those who have been into artificial intelligence, deep learning before, you know that a transformer simply means that you take in an input sequence and then it transforms and then gives you an output sequence. Let me take that again. A transformer, there are different transformers. So you have a transformer, which is like a framework, all right, in AI, that you give it an input, all right, and then it gives you an output sequence. So what that means is just like, GPT, I believe everyone on this call has interacted with ChatGPT, so I won't even bother asking, all right? Just like with ChatGPT, you give it a prompt, which is in natural language, and then there's an engine behind it. That's the GPT engine, the generative pre-trained, transformers behind it that is able to take your input, go into the knowledge base, and then generate a sequence of output. That's why you see that, when GPT is generating the response, you see that it's like it's typing it. That's because it's generating a sequence, all right? So all of that logic is what we're going to be discussing in today's session, really understanding, okay, so if indeed there's a transformer, all right, that I pass in an input, which is my prompt, how do I make sure that that prompt is actually generating the actual response, all right, for me. That is generating a response that is accurate, just like I have it on this slide, that is accurate, that is ethical, all right, and then that is, that has a good tone, that gives me exactly what I want. So that means that at the end of this first part of this session, everyone on this call should be able to even use a GPT, let's say for instance, ChatGPT very well. And guys, I can tell you this for free, that ChatGPT is one of the major breakthroughs that we've had in AI in recent years, right? And I tell you, I know a lot of people, they say, oh yes, I know ChatGPT, I use ChatGPT, but many people have not even scratched the surface of it because this tool is powerful, all right? And once you understand these prompt engineering techniques, you will be able to make the most of GPT and ChatGPT. Now, prompt engineering is about effectively communicating our desired outcomes to the AI model. You see that? You are effectively communicating your desired outcomes to the AI model, achieving tailored and contextually appropriate response. Meaning that the moment you're able to understand what prompt engineering is all about, then you can be able to effectively use that 175 billion parameters that OpenAI has made available to us to write codes, to write articles, to plan your itinerary. Okay, so recently I used it to even design a meal plan for my daughter. So it can do a lot for you guys. It can do a lot. So you can literally use it, to do a lot. And then finding the right balance between open-ended prompts and specific instruction is essential for harnessing the full potential of AI language models. That's why I said, for everyone on this call, we are going to now become educated users of GPT, any type of GPT, any type of language, large language model. We're going to be professionals at using them because now we understand how it works, and then we can give it the right prompt to generate the best response that we want. So what exactly is prompt engineering? I know by now we already know what it is. It is the art of creating well-crafted and structured prompts to guide the responses generated by large language models. All right, that's what it is. It's not necessarily, writing codes. Yes, there's a part of it, all right, but it's more from a user point of view. How do you craft these prompts? Now you're no longer layman. You know that when we say prompt, it means that what? The input that goes into the transformer. All right, the input that goes into the transformer, and then how do you craft that input, all right, in a structured way such that it provides you with a response. And of course, we all know that the response there, as professionals, means that what? The output sequence, the sequence that comes after the input has been passed into the transformer. All right, so now the quality of prompts directly influences the relevance, the accuracy, and the creativity of the AI generated content. No doubt to that. Once you're able to give you definitely see that you'll get a quality. An effective prompt engineering empowers users to achieve specific goals, from generating creative narratives to obtaining factual information, no doubt. And it acts as a bridge between human intent and machine understanding, enhancing the communication between humans and AI systems. And that's what prompt engineering is all about in a nutshell. Now, let's move on to some of the factors that influences prompt engineering. What are some of the factors that will determine, right, how effective we are in using prompt engineering? And the first one is clarity and specificity. And this is the time when I'm going to also I'm going to be dangling between my GPT, my chat GPT, and so let me do this. I'm going to be dangling between, I'm sure everybody has access to chat GPT. So we're going to be coming into chat GPT in and out so that we can be able to test some of the things that I'm going to be talking to you about. All right. Now, having said that, when we get into the lab session, I'm going to talk to you a bit about the GPT, ChatGPT API, because that's what we're going to be using. So I'll talk to you about that. But let's just play around with the ChatGPT here in a moment. All right. So let me come back here. Now, clarity and specificity. We say that clear prompts leave little room for misinterpretation. That means once you're able to give your language model a clear prompt, that is a clear input, then you are helping the transformer, all right, or the GPT in this case, to have little room for misinterpretation. And specificity guides the model to provide accurate and relevant responses. That's what specificity does, right? Once you are very specific, then you can be rest assured that you can be, you can be assured really that it will definitely give you the right and relevant response. So let's try this example. An example of clarity and specificity is, for example, it says summarize the key findings of the research paper on renewable energy versus tell me about renewable energy. So let me ask us, right, in the chat. Remember, it's going to be interactive. Can you tell me between these two, which would you say is clear and specific? Is it option 1 or 2? Option 1 says summarize the key findings of the research paper on renewable energy. Option 2 says tell me about renewable energy. Which one do you think is specific and clear? Okay, I see a lot of 1 in the chat. Okay. Option 1, okay. I see some 2. Okay, good, excellent. I see 1, I see 2, I see 1, I see 2. Okay, now let's see that. So let's see. Okay, I see a lot of option 1. All right, now we're gonna, okay, so we're gonna try it out ourselves. Oh, now, oh, look at that. I will have to stop sharing to be able to copy that. Okay, but let me type it out. Let me just quickly type it out. So once it summarize the key findings of the research paper on renewable energy. Now, guys, it will interest you to know that to summarize the research paper on renewable energy. Okay, so look at this. I'd be happy to help, but couldn't provide, could you please provide blah, blah, blah. So that tells us, let me see that I saw, okay, including the guys at the hub. I know, unfortunately, I might not be able to hear you, but I know you are there, so I acknowledge you guys. But look at the shocker, guys. For those who said option 1, you are wrong. Only a few people said option 2. Only a few people. Let me see how many people. Maybe just 2 persons said option 2. You'll be shocked that when it comes to GPT, large language models, the specific and clear one is actually tell me about renewable energy. And you can see that ChatGPT is also very smart to tell you that, hey, look, I don't understand what you're talking about. Can you be more specific? Because you've not provided any paper. And that's why, look, I say summarize the key findings of the research paper on renewable energy. We've not provided any. But look at it, when I tell it to tell me about renewable energy, see what it tells me. Tell me about renewable energy. It's able to tell me something. So I'm clear. I'm clear. Now, if I want to be more detailed, then I can provide a research paper, all right, and then it can be able to generate content for me. And let me mention this, that when you're providing your own data to GPT, to ChatGPT, ladies and gentlemen, make sure that if it is confidential, don't use this open platform. That is chat.openai.com. Don't use it. Don't put in your company's information or your personal information here, because that is going to be used, right, to retrain the model. So what then do you need to use? Now, you come into OpenAI, so you go to platforms.openai, and then there's what we call the playground here. The playground. Now, the playground here allows us, let me go to the playground. Look at it right here. So we have what we call the playground. And just to mention, for some of us, you might not see the playground on your own platform. And that's because probably you don't have the a ChatGPT token, right? So to get a ChatGPT token, usually ChatGPT is going to give you, OpenAI will give you about $5 of free resource, right, to test and build with, right? I know many people don't really know about this playground, but now you know. So it's going to give you about 5. So if you, for instance, let's say you've registered for some time, it might have expired, but there's a hack, right? There's a hack to it. So what the hack is very simple. Just create a new ChatGPT account, all right? And I'm going to encourage everyone to do that. If you don't have any tokens that you can use for it, so let me just go to my own just to show you something. So look at my own view API keys. Look at my billing. So I have a free trial. So this is another account I've created. I have a free trial. All right. So everyone can do that. Very easy to do, right? You can do that, and then you set it up. Just make sure. I think the things they will require is a phone number. So you'll be required to use a new phone number that you've not used before, and then it's going to give you about $5 for you to use. Look at mine. I think under my rate limit or usage. Look at my usage. I still have like, look at, I still have like $5 free thanks to OpenAI. And if OpenAI is listening to me or would listen to me afterward, thank you guys. You guys have made life easy for a lot of people. All right. So $5 you get it for free. It's a grant. Mine is going to expire on the 1st of November. All right. You all can get it because for even the practicals that we'll be doing today, you would need it, right? So if you can get it now, do. Otherwise, you can always get it later on if you want to. But it's I'd encourage you, right, to get it. And I think maybe what I'll do is after this first session, before we go into the lab session, I can just give us like 5 minutes. So I need us to pay attention here. I can give you all like 5 minutes to go ahead and create a new GPT account, all right? And a new OpenAI account so that you can be able to get these free credits to try your hands, all right, on what we're going to be doing together in class today. Okay, so back to what I was saying, right? Now, the playground. Now, the playground, guys, is the place where you can literally try out stuff. Here, you are free and safe, just like it says here. It says, default model, okay, no, look at it. It says, request submitted to our API and playground will not be used to train or improve feature models. So that tells us that you can actually use this playground, all right, to play with some confidential information. But of course, there's still a caveat, right? I'm not telling you to get your company's information and put here. Put only the thing that you are comfortable with. You get my point. But at least OpenAI has told us that it is safe to play with this. So it is in this case, right, that we can now get, maybe if you have a research paper on renewable energy, you can now put that paper here, copy the content, put it there, and then ask questions about the content. If you get what I mean, right? So once you're able to provide that, then you can be clear, right? You can provide clear prompts. But between the two, just like I've said, option 2 is the specific one. Tell me about it. Tell me about renewable energy. It's very clear. And then it was able to give us responses. Now, the second factor that influences prompt engineering is contextual information. Providing context helps the model to understand the subject and then generate coherent content. Now, content-rich prompts enhance the model's ability to mimic human-like understanding. All right. An example of it is, imagine you are a historian writing about World War II. Describe the importance of the war on the global economy. Look at that. So we are literally telling it, for instance, if I come back here, so I'm saying, for instance, imagine, let's say, for instance, imagine you are a student, for instance, of data science Nigeria, right? So you're using a very clear, right? You're providing context. You're telling it, imagine you are a student of data science Nigeria. What would you, okay, well, let me just say, write, look at this, guys. Write let's say 5 tips, right, to get a high-paying job. Let's see that together, right? Certainly, landing a high-paying job in the field of data science requires a combination of technical expertise. As a student of DSN, right, it tells you, here are 5 tips. Master relevant technical skills. Build a strong portfolio. internship or practical experience, networking and professional development, crafting an outstanding resume. You see that? Now, that's the beauty of it. But if I just provided a prompt like saying that, write 5 tips to get a high-paying job, probably to just give me some things out of the world, right? But because I provided a context, look, I'm a student of data science Nigeria. Can you write 5 tips to get a high-paying job? All right. And look at that. He provided some really good content for us. Really good content for us. If I put something like, let's say, write 5 tips to get high-paying job in data science, most likely it will not be as detailed as this. But because there's a context, right? There's a context. I hope you all are feeling good about this, right? So let me just get a quick pulse check. How are we feeling? How are we feeling? How's it going? I hope we're feeling good about this. People in the physical venue and everyone online. Okay, I see. Great, awesome. Okay, good. All right. If you have questions, remember we're going to have a time for questions and answers, so you can always drop them and I'll be more than happy to answer them. All right, so still talking about the factors. Another one is instructions and constraints, and this is actually very interesting. Instructions and constraints. It says that including instruction guides the style, the tone, and formatting of the generated content. Constraints ensure responses adhere to specific guidelines, enhancing output quality. An example here is write a poem about nature in a playful and rhyming style. A poem about nature in a playful and rhyming style. Let's do that. I think that's going to be very interesting. Write a poem about nature in a playful and how do you spell rhyming? Okay, to help me, I guess. Oh, look at that rhyming style. Look at that. The middle green, blah, 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 nature dance, blah, blah, blah. So you're giving it context. In forest depths, mystery hide, where fairies and hells may reside. You can even tell right if you want to write a love poem to your your partner, just tell it and then give it a constraint. Now, in prompt engineering, there's also something we call the chain of thoughts. The chain of thought, where you can also tell it to give you a step-by-step guide. So all you have to do is just, for instance, you can tell it, write a step-by-step guide to cooking, let's say to cooking, what's your best food? Let's say rice, or let's say Nigerian rice. Oh, I should have said Nigerian jollof rice. I'm sure the Ghanaians on this call would most likely by why not Ghanaian jollof rice. But look at that. So it gives you the ingredients. It tells you the preparation, all right? Now you can see that this is beautiful because once you're able to define the instructions and the constraints, all right, the GPT engine, and in this case, we are only using OpenAI's LLM, which is ChatGPT. We can use others. As a matter of fact, there are many others that are now coming up. There's GPT for all, which I will talk to you about in a moment, all right? But using this, you see how that, it gives us a step-by-step. So it tells us these are the ingredients, these are the instructions, and that's how beautiful it is, all right? So let's look at another constraint, a factor that we need to consider, the length and the complexity. Length and the complexity. It says longer prompts can provide more context, but concise prompts may lead to focused response, all right? So the complexity of prompts should match the complexity of the desired response. You get that? So for example, it says, explain the concept of quantum entanglement in simple terms. So the word quantum entanglement sounds so big, but when you say in simple terms, right, you've already given it a context, all right, to ease this complexity. If I did put simple term, most likely to start, writing some mathematics, right? But when you put simple term, the GPT, the transformer in this case, just like I explained earlier on, understands what the input is, and then is able to look at the billions and billions of parameters that it has been trained with, and it generates a response for you. All right? Wow, time is really fast. We spent about 30 minutes, really. Okay. So moving ahead, guys. Other factors, right, includes rephrasing and iteration. And I love to do this a lot. You can rephrase, right? So experiment with different, phrasing to understand how the model interprets the prompt. Iterative prompt refinement enhance the chances of obtaining desired output. So when you iterate your prompt, that is your input in this case, right? You can begin to see different responses, right? And an example here says, try these variations like explain the process of photosynthesis versus describe how plants convert light into energy. You see that? So photosynthesis, as we know it, is also about light conversion into energy in plants. So when you just give it different, iterations, you realize that the response that you will generate will be different from the response that another person will generate, and it can give you a unique, response. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, prompt engineering is so interesting because I've seen a lot of people, guys, making a lot of money from using ChatGPT, making a lot of money, a lot of money. I've seen guys who became content creators just by using this, guys. So it's a lot. It helps you start your thoughts, right, and then you just tweak it, right? Tweak it, make it good. I've seen guys writing short books, just by using this powerful technology. All right. So let's move on to the next point. It says goal-oriented prompt. Goal-oriented prompt. Align prompt with specific goals, whether it's information, retrieval, creative writing, translation, or code generation. So here, what we're saying is that you can tailor your prompt to the desired outcome so that it can improve the success rate. An example is write a Python code to calculate the factorial of a number. Now, in time past, of course, most of us will go to Stack Overflow, right? And then, try to, okay, well, if you have an error in your code, you want Stack Overflow to give you some idea. But this time around, guys, you can easily go to ChatGPT. I do that a lot. And I mean, I use the word a lot emphatically because I do that. Because, one time I used to have like a mentor who would tell me that, look, in the real world of software engineering, I mean, of course, when you're watching movies, you see people just typing, you feel like, wow, this is serious. But in the real world of software engineering, the guys who work in the big guns, they use Stack Overflow a lot because you're not expected to cram codes, right? You're not expected to. The most important thing is to understand the basic, and then you can use reference materials, right? And that's what ChatGPT brings. So I'm encouraging you guys, never get stuck in debugging anymore. Long gone are the days. You are still listening to me, and then you are still spending sleepless nights trying to, where is the comma in this code? What is the bug in this code? Just copy the error and take it to ChatGPT. Be specific. What is wrong with this code? What is wrong with this response? And it will tell you. It will tell you. I have saved, oh my God, I have saved hundreds of hours that I would have used, right, iterative in getting responses, solutions, and we can iterate faster. And that's the beauty of this platform. And that's the beauty of understanding prompt engineering. I've seen startups that have started. In fact, I know startups that have started by using the prompt engineering techniques that I'm showing you today with ChatGPT, and they've built remarkable product, generated remarkable strategies, and they are raising funds in the millions of dollars. So I'm just, making sure that I'm opening your eyes to this reality so that when we get to our practical session, it will be my joy that after this practical session, a lot of people here will start thinking of products to build, start thinking of startup ideas, right, that you can build with it, because guys are they're cashing in on this technology already. All right, so let's move fast while time is, but I believe I'm communicating to you guys. Now, there are two types of prompts, all right? Two types of prompts. The first one is open-ended prompts, which encourage the model to generate creative and diverse response, all right? And there's okay, so I'll talk about the second one. So this open-ended prompt is very useful when you're trying to brainstorm. You want to do some creative writing, you want to generate ideas, you want to generate startup ideas, or you want to generate innovative ideas even at work. you can use this open-ended prompt. For example, I have this prompt here that says, create a dialogue between a time-traveling scientist and a Nigerian priest. Guys, let me whisper this. Have you observed that if you watch content creators a lot, I love comedy. Do you know that most of these guys now use ChatGPT to generate skits? I tell you, they use it to generate skits. They use it. So, I mean, let me use the word, don't sleep on this fantastic opportunity. Don't sleep on it. Once you understand prompt engineering techniques, I've been privileged to speak to some folks about this, and I've seen a lot that they've done with it. Once you understand how to generate this content, that's it. So here, I can say, create a dialogue between a time-traveling scientist and a Nigerian priest. And then tomorrow, you just see me posting something on comics. Of course, I won't do that. I mean, there's 1001 thing that on my desk that I should be doing. But I'm saying that somebody here can just say, okay, you know what? I want to be a data scientist, a comic data scientist, or an artificial intelligence comic artist. Those are ideas. Those are ideas. Well, where did the idea just come from? I'm not sure anybody has done that. Where you just say, okay, you know what I want to be doing is generate content, comic content, and they use ChatGPT to help you start your thought. Of course, I'm not saying copy and paste. No. You don't want to do that. But use it to generate ideas. Create a dialogue between a line of feet and outliers. Just create some lovely stuff using ChatGPT. All right, you get the gist. So let's move very quickly. Then we also have the closed prompt. All right, the closed prompt here, it restricts responses to specific formats. All right, categories or criteria. It is ideal, for tasks requiring structured outputs, factual information, or adhering to specific guidelines. For instance, an example can say, list the top benefits of being a registered member of Data Science Nigeria. Top 5. When I use this, it's going to give me specific, and that's the beauty of it, right? So those are the two types. I'm sure somebody's already, okay, I'm seeing some comments. I'm whetting somebody's appetite. Okay, to create solution and make money, like you said. How? Okay, yes, that's a good question. I'll come to that. But just listen on. I believe I'm already sharing some ideas on how you can actually use it. Olajide, how you can use it. You can think of, just to answer that really, you can think of what can you do? What do you love doing? I've just given you an example of how that content creators across the world are now using ChatGPT to generate content, all right, skit content. They tell it, open-ended, create a dialogue between for instance, a Nigerian tailor and their customer. Make it interesting, make it funny, and then it generates the content. It generates a script. The tailor, comes. I mean, the customer of the tailor comes and say, "Hey, where's my clothes?" And the guy says, "Oh, your clothes," and it's funny, right? That's one. Of course, we all know that content generation or digital content generation is a big thing in today's world, right? How do you make money from this? You can begin to think of startup ideas. You can use ChatGPT really to help you, right? Just iterate to say, okay, I want to build this. Let's say you're building something in agriculture. Can you tell me about creative ideas to solve, it will give you ideas. It will give you ideas. I tell you this for free. It will. All right. So let's quickly talk about the best practices. Like I said, we're going to build today. And I'm so excited about the hands-on session. So now, what are the best practices? The first thing, and I love to mention this a lot, is be specific. Be specific. Clearly outline the desired output in your prompts. Provide specific details or parameters to guide the model's response. An example of this is write a detailed comparison between traditional farming and modern hydroponics. Of course, we all know what hydroponics is all about. That's, these days where you have greenhouse, you have plants that are planted on, the soil and water, tomatoes and all that, focusing on resource efficiency. So here I'm being specific. I could also tell it to say, write a detailed business plan on building hydroponics, right? And then tell me, so when it gives me that, you can tell it again, tell me or write some go-to-market business strategies. And by so doing, you're already making money because remember, money, and let me just put this out there so that we all can be on the same page, that making money is an exchange of value. So when you add value to the market systems of this world, you are going to receive value in return. Of course, quotes, ChatGPT is not going to print money for you. ChatGPT will not print money, all right? ChatGPT only gives you the value, all right? And then you can take that value to the market. You can implement the value and the real work. And I always say the real work is actually executing. So it might give you lovely ideas, but the real work is in executing. And the moment you're able to execute, all right, you can then get value in return. That's how it works, right? So avoid ambiguity. That's another best practice, all right? Avoid ambiguity. Eliminate vague terms or phrasing that could lead to unintended or unclear responses. Specify exactly what you're looking for to get accurate response. So take, for instance, instead of saying, discuss the impact of technology, you can say something like, explain how smartphones have transformed communication habits. So you're very clear, right? No ambiguity. If you want to get the best of it, because I have seen people that will tell me, oh, look, I'm actually frustrated with ChatGPT because it's not giving me what I want. I'm telling you, look, you just need these best practices in prompt engineering techniques, all right? Then the third best practice here is experiments, all right? Test different phrasing, different styling, and approaches to understand the model's capabilities. Like I said, there are a lot of models out there. OpenAI's ChatGPT is just one of them, right? There are a lot of them. I've told you about, GPT-4, a lot of them, and they are all fantastic, I must say, all right? So I see a question. Thank you for the message. What I'm not clear about is, do you mean ChatGPT will give me ideas or it can be embedded in the solution I make? This aspect is not entirely clear. Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to respond to that shortly. That's a good one. All right. So please keep the questions coming. I would respond to all of them. The ones I can respond to on the spot, I will do. The ones that I will do during the Q&A, I'll do. All right. So iterate. Refine your prompt based on initial model output. All right. So this means that when you get a prompt, you can refine it by asking it in a different way again. For instance, if the response is off topic, you can modify the prompt to provide more context and direction. So you can always iterate. That's a beautiful thing about this. Then you can balance creativity and precision. There's also a point of balance, right? Choose between, do you want to go with the open-ended approach or the closed prompt, based on your goals, right? But you must be able to strike a balance between allowing creative freedom. So for instance, if you're trying to generate an idea, you want to make sure that you balance, okay, do I want to go open-ended? Or I want it to be specific about what exactly I want, all right? Then provide context. I don't overemphasize this. I'm sure some of us would have seen prompts like, asking ChatGPT to act like, what I can say, act like a teacher and tell me how to, build a car, for instance, right? Act like, so you can tell it. This is an example. It says, imagine you are a nutritionist. Write a blog post about the benefits of a plant-based diet for heart health, right? So you're providing context to it. So before I go into the ethical consideration, let me quickly take this beautiful question. Do you mean ChatGPT would give me ideas or it would be embedded in the solution I make? Both. The answer is both. ChatGPT, or let's say large language models generally can give you ideas, all right, depending on the prompt, right? You can tell it, generate ideas for me on how to build a thriving AI startup in Nigeria or a thriving data science startup in Nigeria. You can ask it that. It will generate some ideas and then you can begin to drill into those ideas. So for instance, let's say it tells you let's say it says start a blog on AI. So you can go in and say, tell me more about starting a blog on AI. And then it will use that same chain of thought, all right, to give you more responses, right? So that's how you can generate ideas with it. And remember that you must be able to follow all of the things that I've highlighted earlier on, right? In terms of asking the right questions, all right? So then the other one, in terms of can it be embedded into the solution I'm making? Absolutely. And that's what we're going to be doing in the lab session. We're going to build our own GPT. We'll build it, we'll write the code from scratch, right? We'll build it, and then you see what it looks like. And I'm going to turn it over to you guys to see what opportunities are here. Do you want to build this for your company? Do you want to build this as a product? Do you want to embed it into your solution? All of that will be done during the lab session. All right. So I hope I answered that question. Thank you for the question. Now, on ethical consideration, first of all, please, let's guard against bias. All right. Let's guard against bias. Bias prompts can lead to biased responses. We are all responsible AI users. I recall that during the course of all the activities that led to this bootcamp, there was a time we had a session with at Microsoft Office talking about responsible AI. All right. So as much as possible, as responsible engineers, we must guard against bias. Right. Ethical prompt engineering involves avoiding biased languages or instructions. So what that means is instead of saying something like explain the role of women in caregiving role, that's bias. You don't have to use a gender. You don't have to be specific that way. Just say something like discuss the diverse contribution of individuals in caregiving role. So avoid gender bias altogether. Please avoid it. All right. Then the next point here is content sensitivity. Content sensitivity. So either you're using ChatGPT or you're using your own custom application, make sure that generating sensitive, offensive, or harmful content is problematic. Make sure you know that. Now, you don't want to generate very sensitive content. You don't want to have, because remember, like I said, the more you use these models, the data that you provide, especially on ChatGPT's platform, is being used. All right. Even though, yes, OpenAI has put in some very solid protocol to guard against bias, but then you should don't stress the protocols, right? Don't ask, sensitive content. Don't, please. Make sure you don't. Other ethical considerations is avoid misinformation. I recall Data Scientist Network did some very fantastic publication around misinformation at some point. Let's avoid it. False information that can be generated if prompts are not well structured. For example, let's say you're saying something like create a news headline about a celebrity's death. You don't need that. You don't need that. Use something like create a fictional news headline for a story, right? So you want to make sure that you avoid misinformation, because we are in this world, this social media world, we are battling with a lot of misinformation challenges, right? So you want to avoid that. Respect privacy. Respect privacy. Don't ask questions like, tell me the address of Dr. Bayo Adekombi, for instance. You don't need that, right? You don't need that. So respect people's privacy, right? Respect people's privacy. All right. Now, consider potential harm. How that could cause harm, that could cause anxiety or distress should be avoided, right? So instead of writing something like write an oral story that terrifies the reader, hey, just use something like create an engaging mystery story with a suspense element. You see that? You see that? So it means that as powerful as these tools are, we must be creative. We must be creative. Look at that. Isn't this better than writing a horror story where you say, just create a mystery story with a suspenseful elements, and you're still going to be able to achieve what you want to. Now, in conclusion, to this first part of the conversation, okay, I think I'm right on time, all right, is to say that prompt engineering is the linchpin of effective communication with AI language models. And by mastering the art of crafting well-defined prompts, which in this case, we all know now is the input that goes into the transformer, and then the transformer, which is a large language model, generates what? A sequence of outputs, a sequence of outputs. So if you ever get yourself in an interview and somebody asks you about prompt engineering, now you know how to explain it. That look, It's all about, the sequence or transformers. You have an input sequence, and then you have an output sequence. Now, by mastering the art of creating well-defined prompts, you can unlock the full potential of this model and achieve the desired outcome. All right, so far, we've talked about quite a number of things, but these are like the key takeaways: that precision drives quality. Clear and specific prompts, all right, yield accurate and contextually relevant response. So if you are clear with your prompts, just like that question around generating ideas, if you are clear with what exactly you're trying to achieve, use context, use role plays, you use chain of thought, the GPT will generate exactly what it is that you want. All right, context shapes responses. We must understand that when you put in a context, a contextual prompt will result in a more nuanced and human-like response. All right, if you give it a good content, it will give you a good response. Guideline enhances outcomes, right? Including instructions and constraints ensure responses meet specific criteria. So you can give it a guideline, all right, and then it generates a very good response for you. Ethical responsibility, please, let's always be ethical, even as we build AI. I love to call myself an advocate for responsible AI because, look, if we all make it a point of duty to say, I'm going to build AI systems that are responsible, that are ethical, then you see that we would use this for the common good of the world, all right? Last but not the least is continuous refinement, all right? Learning from models output improve the quality of prompts and responses. So the moment you get a response, you can always, iterate, ask it more questions, ask it to explain things that are not understanding, use words like, tell me in simple term, and it's going to generate what you need. All right, so that's the first part of this conversation. We've got like 39 minutes to go. All right, so let's see. Questions? Are there other questions as regards what we've talked about? Everybody now knows what prompt engineering is all about. So now we can move into our hands-on session. If I do not see questions coming, okay, no questions. All right, so we're good. So tell me, how are we feeling? Okay, yes. People in house, yeah, please, Uche, go ahead.
Here, and I believe that we also might have questions for you, those of us here physically. So what we would do, right, we would collate the questions for those who are virtual, and for those of us here on ground, they will be given the opportunity to make it on the mic to ask their questions when they need clarifications. And I think that some of those questions might come in when we get started with the practical session. I don't know if we have any questions right now for what has been shared, for those of us here. Do we have any questions? Okay, so Lincoln, we have a few questions here on ground that we'd like to take, from those physical, in the physical center. Okay. So Rams, can you help with the mic, please?
All right, let's do this. So while we're doing that, I see a quick question that says, can I make it generate a book-long content? And I would like to say that it's a tricky one, because the first answer is no. And I'm saying no because there's a limit to every prompt, right? So there's a limit to every response that comes from the prompt. So what you can use it to do is generate an outline, all right? And then from the outline, you can now begin to ask it further questions, all right? So at the end of the day, right, you might be able to get a book-long content, but not in one prompt, all right? Not in one prompt. So for instance, you can say, generate an outline for a book on, let's say, Introduction to Python Programming. It generates the outline. What I always love to encourage actually is, don't use ChatGPT to achieve everything, especially when you are generating or creating a knowledge product. You don't want ChatGPT to just give you the answers, because guys, it can also be wrong. It can also be wrong. So you don't just want it to generate your content, but when it gives you an outline, you can refine the outline, use it to just guide you, and then go on the internet, still do your own research so that you can be able to create a bespoke knowledge product. So that's why I said no, because I wouldn't encourage you to use it to generate a book, right? But you can use it to guide your thoughts, right? And that's where creativity comes in. It gives you an idea, and then you can go do your own research, and then you can be able to write, your book. So do we want to take the premise question now?
Yes, we want to. All right, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you for the wonderful session, Lekon. My question is related to the ethical part of using OpenAI's ChatGPT and other generative AI. My question is, how do we, if we get ideas, like you advise everybody get ideas for businesses, get ideas for new startups and everything, at what point do we the data for the AI is from across the internet and all the past work that's been done. So my question is, at what point do we give credence? Do we give credit? Do we acknowledge the work of the people that have done that have contributed to the data during our startup? And then who owns the idea in the real sense? Of course, it's not ChatGPT that owns the idea that you have that it is generated. So who owns the idea? And at what point do we acknowledge the work of those that are the idea? Thank you.
Excellent. I love that. Thank you for that question. Now, the good thing is, when it comes to idea generation, right? One thing that ChatGPT would do for us is it gives us a bit of a unique flavor. All right. It gives a bit of a unique flavor. And that's where prompt engineering actually helps us. So let's say, for instance, I'm saying generate ideas. I want to generate ideas on, let's say, EdTech, an EdTech product. One thing the prompt that I can generate can look something like, I want you to act like a tech entrepreneur. Generate ideas, unique ideas. I can use those words, unique ideas, to solve the problem of out of school children using technology. So you say that you are a bit specific. So it's going to give you different. So you can say, give me like 5 ideas. It will give you different ideas. But you know what that does to you? When you get those ideas, then that's why I say creativity comes to play. You now look at those responses, and then you look at it contextually based on your own understanding, right? And then you can be able to refine those ideas. So that is to say that a large language model is not expected, or should not be used, right, as the holy grail to say, oh, ChatGPT has told me that, okay, I need to build learning centers that are powered by solar, or solar panel learning centers that are mobile. If you go and build that, a data scientist network will come and arrest you because DSN has something like that. You get me? So, but the point here is, when it gives you those ideas, they are just, idea, or better put, it's meant to just kickstart your thinking. And then you can be able to refine those ideas, and then, it becomes yours. All right. So I hope that answers the question. I'm not sure I'm saying the person who asked, but I hope you get the gist. Okay. All right. So do we have any other question there? I see some new questions coming.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to ask that, of course, I believe there are boundaries for the usage of ChatGPT, and I just want to make more emphasis on the boundaries, like, okay, probably in medical institution, in academic settings, what are the boundaries and things like that.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Yes, a lot of boundaries. Like I mentioned, right? This platform, let's even say large language models generally, right, it'll have a lot of boundaries. And that's why there's always a caveat that it might not always generate accurate responses. In fact, there's even a lot of publications around the fact that large language models can hallucinate. They can hallucinate, right, a lot. So what that tells us is, in academic context, it's a body of knowledge, right? So we want to make sure that when we're generating content in academic, we do not rely on large language models. The best that it can do for us is to give us, thought starters. And by the way, if you generate an academic work with ChatGPT, remember that we also have counter ChatGPTs, the likes of plagiarism checkers that can see that, oh, this guy used an AI generated app, right? So my point here, therefore, is that we make sure that anything that is meant to be a unique body of knowledge, academic work, we do not rely on ChatGPT for doing such things. Please do not. Do not. The best it can tell you is gives you the ideas. It might, yes, write some stuff for you, but don't trust what it has written and don't use that as your whole. All right. You still do what you need to do in terms of doing your research. All right. So I hope that answers the question. So let me quickly, okay, let's just take everyone on site first, then I'll quickly read questions here. Do we still have more questions coming on site?
Hands again. All right, so you can go ahead and take the questions from the chat session that you have identified. We have a few here that we've also collected, but you can just take like one or two that you've seen, and then we can move on to the next transfer session.
Thank you very much. How will you be able to know if information you gave is wrong? Yes, a very good question coming from Takid. You see, when ChatGPT gives you a response, and that's why I said, especially note that word, when you are generating a knowledge product, a intellectual knowledge product, don't trust what ChatGPT will give you. I've seen people who get themselves in trouble thinking that, oh, ChatGPT has said this, oh, that is what it is. No, the best it can do for you, especially when you're, let's say you're programming, you get stuck, you can use it, yes, it can give you some content, but again, when it comes to AI model, please quote me anywhere. Trust, but verify. Let me say that again. When it comes to using large language models, trust, but what? Verify. If you can, those who are on premise, if you can just turn to your neighbor, tell them trust, but verify. You must trust and verify. Verify, verify, verify. And that's where, it becomes, that's where you can take pride in it to say, oh, yes, I wrote this work. I did this work because you've also validated what it has given you. There's another question from Ayomide says, what should I do when prompt keeps giving me wrong answers even after rephrasing? Like generating random names, outline and concepts which is not real and totally wrong. Good question. In that case, all you have to do is check your prompt. Check your prompt. For instance, you say generating random names, outline and concepts which is not real and totally wrong. So in that case, all you have to do is just check your prompt. You can even try it now if you have access. Check your prompt. Use words like context, put in some context. For instance, if you say generate random names, can you put something like, can you generate random African names, for instance, or random Nigerian names, right? It will be able to. So when you put in a context, then you can get a good response. Using it to write an academic project work, how do we go about the reference? Oh, good one. Now, when you're writing the academic project, remember, like I said, because it's an intellectual work, it's not always advisable to rely solely on ChatGPT. You still want to do your research, and you must do your research, right? But indeed, there are cases where, people have said that the references that GPT provides are not always accurate. Is either you click on the link and it tells you, oh, no, this link doesn't exist, right? So we must be careful even at that. So, but it can give you an idea, a thought starter in that your academic work, all right? And then you'll be able to, get a good response. Just like we would usually search online for what exists, and then we work our ideas from there. Yes. Thank you, Tim Lane. That's very good. Trust but verify. Yeah, that's a key word. That's a key word. All right. So I think we're good. I think we've been able to answer all the questions. We've got, oh my, 27 minutes to go. Okay, guys. So let's go into our lab session.
Thank you. Olalekan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes. Go ahead, please.
Let's get started with the lab session now, and all other questions will be taken at the end of the lab session.
Perfect. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So we're gonna build a custom GPT app, right? And so excited about this. But before we do that, I think I just give us like a minute or two, just for a stretch. We've been sitting for over an hour, so we all just 1 minute. If you want to just take a stand, I also like to do that. Just 1 minute of a stand, a stretch, right? Okay. Just stretch yourself, let the blood flow into your veins, because now we're going to be writing some code. Okay, it's always good practice, for us to be able to stand and don't just get yourself entangled with your screen, right? Okay, so we're going to be following 5 steps, all right, to build this application. First one is we're going to set up a virtual environment. We're going to install the dependencies, maybe using a requirement.txt file. We're going to write the code. We're going to run the app, and then we're going to test the app. The number 6 point would have been also for what I'll talk about it, how you can deploy, applications, either using a tunneling system like ngrok or using a cloud platform like AWS, Azure, and all that. I'll speak briefly about that. So now, we're going to be using these 5 libraries, and OpenAI library. We're going to be using that. Like I said earlier on, OpenAI has made life very easy for everyone. And I would love for us to, because our time is fast spent, but I'd love for us, let me just quickly do a random check, and which you can also help me on premise. How many people have an OpenAI account that probably still, you have an active subscription or a token, or you have access to their API? With a show of hand, you can just, let's see, in the chat, just give me a yes if you have.
Okay.
Okay, yes. Oh, I see a lot of yes. Okay, good. I see some yes in the chat.
So here on Lagos, here on ground, we have just like 3 persons. So we have the vast majority do not have.
Okay, so can we let's allow for like a minute or two for people to just, if you want to get the what's it called, if you want to get the, okay, I couldn't get mine. Okay, if you want to get the grant, so OpenAI is giving like $5 grant for you to test. What you just need to do is you need to create a new OpenAI account and then use a different phone number. So that's where it becomes very, you have to use a different phone number, a different email, right, to be able to do this. But I know that some of us might not have our different phone number right there. So maybe we'll just save time. Since this is being recorded, I'll just encourage us to listen well. For those who have access, you can also play around with me as I go. But I'll encourage us to just listen well. I believe I should be able to cover this within the short period of time that we have. So I would make it very clear. Well, just listen up, listen up. That's all you have to do. And you can go over the recording later on. All right. Now, data query. So we're going to be using OpenAI. We'll call the GPT 3.5 Turbo API, which is, of course, like a large language model in this application that we'll be building. We'll be using the LangChain framework. By the way of just telling you about LangChain. So LangChain is right here. Let me drop the link in the chat. I'm going to share my slide. Anyways, I'm going to share this slide so that everyone can be able to go through it. So LangChain is a framework for developing applications powered by language models. So I'm very sure a lot of us would have seen a lot of applications coming up. Most of them use a LangChain. Think of it like it's a Python framework. Think of it like your Flask for those who use Flask, or your Django for those who use Django for building web application. That's exactly what it is, right? Then we're going to be using this powerful module, right? It's called Llama Index. Llama Index. So Llama Index uses LangChain's LLM module and allows for customizing underlying LLM. So essentially, what Llama Index does, right, is that it's the platform. I love Llama Index. It's a platform that will help us with the embedding process, which is it's going to convert our text data, all right, into vector index, right? So let me show you the documentation for that. So this is the documentation for Llama Index, all right? And I love to read documentation. I love to tell people read documentation, because if you really want to have an understanding of all of these technologies, you have to read their documentation, and they have a rich one. So it says Llama Index is a data framework for LLM application to ingest, structure, and access private or domain-specific data. So Llama Index will help us to work with our own data. All right. It's going to help us embed our own data so that we can be able to interact with that data. All right. I hope this is getting clear. We're going to use PyPDF. Although Llama Index already has PyPDF in it. So, but PyPDF, because I want us to work with PDF documents. All right. So we'll use PyPDF. And then we're going to use this beautiful, beautiful framework for building front-end applications. I love Chainlit. How many of us have heard of Chainlit? Show of hand in the audience or in the chat. Just give me a yes if you've heard of Chainlit. I know most of us would have heard of Streamlit. There's Streamlit and there's Chainlit. So Chainlit, yes, if you have heard of it. No, if you have not. Okay. Wow. No. Okay. In the audience, do we have do we have guys? Oh wow. No. Wow. Really? Okay. Okay. Wow. Okay. That's good. Wow. I'm so excited. I feel like I'm adding real value to you guys today. All right. Thanks to Data Scientist Network. Thank you, DSN, for making this happen. Okay. Yeah. So yes, for those who have heard of, Streamlit, we use Streamlit for building machine learning application. Then we use Chainlit for building GPT applications, right? It is powerful. You guys are going to love it, right? Let me show you what it looks like. So this is the documentation. Oh, why is this blocking me? So this is the documentation for Chainlit. So Chainlit is an open source Python package that makes it incredibly fast to build and share your LLM apps. So with Chainlit, you can easily look at an example of what it looks like. It's so lovely. With few lines of code, you can easily build your application and then you can share it. So we're going to be building that together today. You will love it, guys. You will love it. So let me drop the link, all right, to, Control C that. Let me drop that in the chat, all right? So Streamlit, we're going to be using that to build the front end. So it will save us the stress of writing JavaScript codes and all that because it's a fantastic framework. All right, I haven't established that. Let's now go on to the next point where we're going to start building. So we start with setting up a virtual environment. So let's do that. This is the time where I want everyone to really just make sure you are here with me, pay attention. You don't have to actually code along. Once you understand it, you can ask the right questions and then we can be able to address all your questions. All right, so first thing first, open your lovely text editor. In my own case, I'm using VS Code. All right, open your terminal. All right, open your terminal. So I'm going to open my own terminal right here. I already have a folder. It's an empty folder. Nothing is on the folder currently. All right, so we're going to build our virtual environments. By the way, I hope everybody knows what a virtual environment is in Python. It's just a way of using you isolating the dependencies or an environment for your application, right? I see a chat in there. What's that about? Okay, yes. Okay, so yes, I believe everybody does, all right? So, but for the sake of those who don't know, all you have to do is just do pip install virtual. So there's a library, virtual env. All right, so once you do that, you can install virtual env. I think it will tell me I already have it if I do this. Pip install virtual env. Oh, okay, it's installing. Okay, so it installs virtual env. So you do that. Okay, so it has installed virtual env. So I'm going to be using that, all right, to install or create my virtual environment. So let's do. So I'm going to use Python 3.8. Because usually most of these large language models require a Python 3.8 to really work well. All right. So let's make a venv. Let's call it in the DSN charts, or let's say DSN bots. Yes, let's call it DSN bots. So I'm going to create that environment. So that environment has been created. And all you have to do, if you check here, you see that you have this guy already. So this is my virtual environment. What has just happened is that I have successfully been able to create an environment that will hold everything about what I want to build. right? So it makes life very easy. So let us source activate. So we're going to activate that environment. So DSN bots, all right, /. So we come into what we need is always inside bin. I believe everybody knows this, I believe. Bin activate. So I want to activate the virtual environment. Now, what did you notice? You see that now it's not using the base Python anymore, right? We're not using the base Python anymore. So now we are using the real stuff, right? Which is what we just created. So the basic things that we need, just like I said it here, let me go back to this place. We're going to install these dependencies, right? So to do that, there are different ways of installing the dependency. You can either decide to create a requirement.txt file, right, where you're going to put the libraries that you need. So in my case, I can just, do that. So let's create requirements.txt, all right? So these are good software engineering practices. So I hope that we're all grasping some of those ideas. So the first thing I'm going to do is install Chainlit, right? So to do that, let's come here very quickly to my requirement. All I have to do is I just put the name of the Chainlit app, right? That's the package I want to install. Then let's also comment. And best practice again, I wish we have all day and we can be here. Best practice again when you're writing your code is always comment, right? So I'm going to also, I need llama index. So all I have to do is just llama index, right? So these are the two things I need actually. So just save this. Then when you save this, you can just come back here and then just do pip install read requirement, just requirement. Okay, let's start that. Okay. DSN session, live session. Okay, am I still in the same folder? Okay. I was expecting it to autocomplete. Okay, so let's see that. Could not open requirement.txt. Oh, okay. You know what? Let's see. Let's save that. Oh, look at me. I was writing it in a different folder. So let's move it. You see that? So that's another lovely thing about software engineering. So I was writing that in that folder for the virtual environment. So let's run it now. It should run. Okay, so good. Collecting everything. Oh my God, this time is really running. Okay, what's the grace period? Do we have some extra? I know we have like about 15 minutes to go. Do we still have some extra time?
I think we can do like to 12:20. I think that's fine.
12 to an hour.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, you are the real deal. Thank you. Okay, so this is installing. All depends on the strength of our internet. But so far, I believe what we've done is very clear. Basically, what I've just done is created a virtual environment, activated the virtual environment. Now I'm installing the dependencies. I could have used the dependency that I already have. I wanted to show you. So I think my internet is quite fast, thank God. So what is happening here is that it's installing all of the different libraries, the packages that we need. So all of that is coming right here. All right, so let's give it some time. Okay, is there any chart? The command is different for Windows. Yes, the command is different for Windows. I think I showed us that here. So for Windows, you use this m/bin/activate. Windows has the Venv also, so just use this. Then if you are using CMD, just use env. You go into the env, call the env folder script activate.bat. So this is what you use. So let's quickly come back and see if, okay, so I think all is good. So usually it will tell me this. I think that is because it's a virtual environment, and one or two things might not might not be, there, but it will work. For us to know it will work, let's quickly come and check it out. So let's do chainlit hello. Chainlit hello. Let's confirm that chainlit has been installed. Or let's even do pip list. So look at all the different dependencies that have just been installed. You see that we have, look at that, we have OpenAI, different stuff already there. So I believe all is going to work. So let's do chainlit hello. So if this works, that means chainlit has been installed. Look at that. So our app is running. Look at that. It works. So chainlit works. So we're good. Our front end is going to work. That's what this automatically tells us, right? So let's come back here. And then let me just queue this terminal. All right. Okay. So base again. So you know what we do. Let's go back into our activation. So activate so that we're in the same environment. Now, what's the next thing we need to do? The next thing we need to do is we're going to create our app.py. All right. So the app.py is where we're going to write the code that we're going to be using. So we'll do that. Then there's another thing we'll do. But before then, let's go through our code together. It's quite rich. So I'm going to be moving in between. Let me bring this here. So I'm going to be moving in between explaining what this line of code is all about. All right. And then, timer says, okay, so 13 minutes. All right. So I'm going to move in between so that at least we all can get what we're trying to do. So first thing first, of course, I'm going to import OS. That's so that because remember, I want to use local files. So you import OS so that you can interact with it's happened. So let's import OpenAI. So that's another library that we're going to be using. So importing OS, like I said, is because we would need to interact with the operating system of this computer. And then OpenAI because, of course, we need to use OpenAI. Then from Llama Index, we're going to import a couple of libraries. All right. And how do I know we're going to import that? Again, read the documentation. It's always good. Practice to read the documentation. But what I need is I'm going to be using the query engine of Llama Index. All right. And the query engine of Llama Index basically is, just like it says there, is a generic interface that allows you to ask questions over your data. You get that? So it allows us to ask questions over our data. And what do I do? So I just do from Llama index, Llama underscore index, all right, dot query. So there's a query. What does this thing do? So there's a query underscore engine. Engine, right? So like I said, so all of this code, you see that we have a class here called query engine. So that's what I want to. So I'm going to call retrieval. So there's a retriever underscore query underscore engine. All right. So I'm going to import. Okay, it looks like anytime somebody new comes, my keyboard seizes. So I'm going to bring in our retriever. It looks like a lot of people are joining the call. So anytime a new person joins, my stuff just... Okay, so I'm going to import retriever query engine, right? So that's one thing I need to use. Oops. Just admit that person. Okay, so then again, I'm going to also, from Llama index again, Llama underscore index, all right? Okay. It looks like people are telling their friends to join. So I keep getting a pop-up like connect, admit. Okay, so Llama underscore index again, which is, again, remember, is the library that we're going to use for the embedding. So we're going to use callbacks, and we use the base model of callbacks to use the callback. So there's a stuff called callback manager. So basically what we are doing here is importing all the necessary libraries. So let's comment it. Another admit. Okay. Import all the libraries. Just let me know if you know there's something not clear. But basically, I'm just importing libraries here. The last set of libraries that I would import is again from Llama Index. All right. So from Llama Index, I'm going to import. So the first set of things I've done here is just for the query engine. Remember what I said about the query engine? We need that to be able to interact with our own data. All right. Then I'm going to, now from Llama Index, I'm going to import the following. Of course, you know that you can import multiple libraries at the same time or multiple modules at the same time. So let's import, there's something called LLM predict. All right. Predictor. I'll import that. I'll import service context. All right. Chat's coming. We are trying to build a custom. Okay, somebody is asking. Yes, we're trying to build our custom. I'll make the code available to you guys so that you can use it. Context, so storage context, and then I'm going to also use the load underscore index underscore from underscore storage. So what this is all about, right? Like I said, I got all of this also just by reading the documentation. So not like I'm a superstar, I'm just coding. No, I got it also from, but once you understand how it works, you can tell what you need. And the good thing about programming is that even when it breaks or if something doesn't work, you can always debug it and it will tell you exactly what you're missing. All right. So I would need the LLM predictor for predicting the sequence. I will need the service context, I will need the storage context, and I also need the load index from storage. So let's now go on. Last point here is, remember I talked about LangChain. So we're going to use LangChain chart models. How did I know about that? If you come to LangChain, it has a lot of chart models, right? They call it connectors. Where's that again? So you have it here. Let's see. Different. Okay, you can always search anyways. That's the beauty of it. So we have what we call the chart model. Okay, welcome, David. David just joined and took over my cursor. Okay, so the chart model basically just helps us to interact. That's what it is. Like I said, LangChain is a framework, all right? And in that framework, we can use different chart models. So in my case, what chart model are we using? Anybody in the chat? What chart model are we using? Remember, I talked about it. Let me check the chart. Because I still want this to be interactive, even though I know we press for time. Of course, like we all know, we're going to be using charts, OpenAI model, right? Which it looks like a lot of people are joining now. And I'm getting admit. Okay, so good. So we are using chat OpenAI. So that's what we're going to be using. And then lastly, we're going to import Chainlit. All right, let's just import it as CL. So these are all the things that we need, all right, in terms of the libraries that we need. So next point, right, is for us now start implementing, right? Let's start writing our codes and all that. Now, whenever you're working with OpenAI, you need to have the OpenAI token, right? You need to have the OpenAI token. And that's why I said that I wanted us to create our OpenAI account. But for the sake of those who are unable to, never mind. So let's just bring OpenAI key equals to, so OS environ. So I'm going to OS environ. I'm going to get, so I'm going to create an environment file. So let's call this OpenAI underscore API underscore key. All right. So basically what I've done here is, remember we imported OS the other time. So this is just going to help us interact, all right, with our, what's it called, environment. So let's quickly create, let's say this. Let's create a file. We call it .env. So usually, of course, I believe most of us will know this. Anytime you're working with environment variables like secrets, API secrets, and all that, it's always good to have something like this created. All right. So I will just come here, copy this keyword, and then come to my env file, just paste it, and then I'll go to ChatGPT interface, come to my view API keys. So I have a couple of API keys here. I've created this one specifically, but I wouldn't, although I'll still delete it anyway. So even if you see it, it doesn't matter. So let me just come get it out from somewhere here. Oops. Okay, let me just end the slideshow. So I have it somewhere here also. Oops. So I have it somewhere here. Let me just copy it so that's okay. I hope we are all following. Okay, so I'll just paste it. I already have it. So just paste it. So basically what I'm doing here, okay, admit. What I'm doing here is I'm literally referencing, right, that API key so that I can use it, right? I can be able to use the GPT's API, right? That's basically what I'm doing. All right, so I haven't done that. Let's move fast. Now, the next thing I want to do, right, is to create a storage folder. And this storage folder, there are two things here. I mean, create a data folder. So the data folder is where I'm going to store my custom data, right? So data folder. So inside this data folder, we'll store the data that we want to use, right? Which in this case, we'll just use a PDF file. And then this is where it gets interesting. So ChatGPT, of course, like we all know, is a transformer, like I've explained. So it basically is going to work with vectors. So Llama Index is that engine that will help us literally embed and turn all of that text data that is coming from from PDF into vector index, right? Which is like some JSON file. I will show you what it looks like. So what I'm then going to do, right, is I'm going to start with a try and accept block. So the try and accept block, right, I'm going to use it to build storage underscore context, all right? So storage context, what that means is it's going to hold what has been embedded. I hope you get that. It's going to hold the information from the PDF that Llama Index has, successfully embedded, right? Which is going to be stored in a vector index. And that's exactly what I want to do here. So I'm going to use storage context dot from underscore defaults. All right. So basically what I'm doing here is there's a class that we've imported. Remember, this is it. We imported this module already, storage context. So I'm calling this particular function, which is from default, right? So from defaults, all right, like I said, persist. So I'm going to persist this. So persisting here is going to help us make sure that anyone or any user that is using this application, right, will be able to, would not need to literally generate a new index or a new PDF file, right? So the storage, so it's like me creating a storage, which is like a vector store. You get what I mean? It's a vector store. So remember, like I said, I want to use a try except. So let's just bring my try here. So the purpose of using this try, all right, is first of all, when I launch this application, all right, it's going to build a storage context. Now, the storage context is the vector store. So that's where all the vectors, remember, AI doesn't work with text. It converts them to vectors, lines of numbers. So that's going to be stored here. Then, still within this try block is index. So let's just define a variable called index, all right, load underscore index. So this is another class that I'm calling, which is, remember, I've imported it here. So you can see that everything I'm using here, we already defined them right up there. So storage underscore context, right? So basically what I'm doing here is that this index, so this is my index store, meaning that I'm going to load index from storage. That means that I'm going to load the vector index from the vector store. Does that make sense? So that's what I'm doing here. So it's a try block. Then after every try block, of course, we all know that I have an except block, right? So in my except block, that means if it happens that the storage folder does not exist, then I'm going to say from llama underscore index, I'm going to import GPT vector store index, all right? And then I'm going to also import simple directory reader. Now, what I'm doing here is very simple. I promise you. All of these, imports, all you have to do is just make sure that you spend some time reading through this. But this is the basics of the basics. So what I'm doing here, as we have it, is that from llama index, all right, I'm importing these two extra class, GPT vector store index. Remember, like I said, the PDF that we'll be using will be converted to vector, to index, and it will be stored in a vector store. So we then need this GPT because llama index has been built in such a way that it can read, it can think of it like it is encoding and then decoding. All right, it's encoding and decoding. So we do that, all right, and then afterwards, all right, we then define about three variables. One, document equals to, so simple directory reader. So we start with this simple directory reader. And what this is going to do, right, is that it's going to read from our data folder. Remember, like I said, our try block is for us to do what? Create the storage context. Then in our except block, we are now saying that if that storage context does not exist, all right, then read whatever is inside the data folder, right? So dot load underscore data. All right. So it's going to load that data, and then we're going to create another variable called index, and we're going to be using GPT vector store index for that. Dot from underscore document. So this is a function from GPT vector store. So you can see that this thing is English, right? It's just English. It's nothing out of this world. But just follow me, please, and you can always watch this. Okay. Then we're almost done.
Yeah,
Hey.
so thank you. The next 2 minutes. Thank you.
I have 2 minutes. Ha. Okay. Oh, sorry, but Uche, let me just know the gravity of the time. Is it that after my session they have a break,
Yes, they do.
or there's a session?
After the session, there is a break that
Okay.
they need to be before we go back to the next session.
Okay, all right. Because Uche, to be very honest with you, I think I seen it like 10 minutes. So maybe we can reach a consensus with the participants. If they can give us 10 minutes, that would be awesome. I suspected this was going to happen.
We won't be able to give 10 minutes, so let's see what we can do within 5 minutes. I might plead for 5 minutes of my timekeepers.
Okay, thank you so much. And apologies, guys. Apologies. But I believe it's been a good session, right? So, but let's move fast. So what I'm doing here, right, is that index. So index, the storage context dot persist. So what I'm doing here is that I'm saying that whatever is in the storage context, persist it. That is, save it in my server, so that anytime anybody comes, they can be able to use that same server, right? So that's all I need to do. Now, let's now go on to create the things that we need for us to use the CLI, that is what's it called? Chainlit. So in Chainlit, let me quickly come to the documentation again. All right. So Chainlit offers us a lot of abilities and lovely stuff. So, but because of time, let me just quickly run through it and I'll explain it as we make progress. So we use what we call decorators. For those who are very familiar with Streamlit, we have a lot of decorators. So on chart start, let me come here. Under the API reference, so this is where I'm getting this from. So there's a decorator here called on chart start, right? So what that means is that whenever a chat session begins, All right, I'm going to use asynchronous. So asynchronous is a programming technique that allows you to do multiple things at the same time, right? It means that we can use the same function, different users can use the same function at the same time, right? So let's define a function. I'll call this function, let's just call it factory, all right? And inside this function, I have my LLM underscore predictor. Remember, we imported that earlier on. So this variable is going to hold LLM predictor, which we already imported. And inside this, right, I'm going to set the LLM I'm going to use, which is what? The chart equals to the chart OpenAI, which is the library for OpenAI is a ChatGPT API. All right. And then I'm going to set some parameters, right, which is like temperature. All right, temperature equal to, let's just set it to 0. So when you set temperature of ChatGPT's API to 0, it means that you want it to be a deterministic output. You don't, if it has the same question, it will always give you the same answer, something like that. Then model underscore name equals to, so the model we're using is GPT 3.5 turbo. All right, that's what we're using. Okay, and then we have streaming equals to true. Streaming equals to true means that there's going to be a back and forth, relationship between our local and ChatGPT's API. We're almost there. So let's move fast. All right. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, of course, is I'm going to then come in here and then use my service context, service underscore. Wow, I feel like there's a lot of serotonin, or what they call that hormone. Wow. Okay, so from default, okay. So what I'm doing here is service context, remember, is one of the models that comes with Llama index. So I'm going to say now from default, I'm going to define a variable called LLM predictor. All right, LLM predictor, which is going to be equal to LLM underscore predictor, right, which we already imported. And then let's just use the chunk size, chunk underscore size. Let's make it 512. All right, so chunk size then means the text, so that we don't just eat OpenAI with so much text. So standard usually is 512, small chunks, and then it will handle it. All right, so let's define our callback handler. All right, callback manager equals to callback, which we already imported. Now you see why, all the things that we imported earlier on are very important. So CL dot llama index callback index callback. So I imported this earlier on, callback handler. I think handler should have this. All right, callback handler. So what I'm doing here is actually very, very basic, right? What I'm doing is I'm using this callback manager to ensure that I can handle the relationship between OpenAI's API and my local system. All right. Then lastly, wow, man, which it now seems like 90 minutes wasn't enough, man. What do we do? I want to be sure I'm delivering enough value for these guys. Okay, so query engine dot as underscore query engine, all right? So inside this query engine, so remember what we're doing here is I've already defined my index, right? So basically what I'm just doing here is I'm now calling my query engine, which is what? The Llama index, right? So I'm going to bring service underscore context. So define this variable, service. So I'm just going to call this service context again, all right? And then inside it, we're going to say streaming. Inside this one is what? Is true, right? All right. So let's make progress. Then lastly, all I have to do, right, is call my chainlets user underscore session dot set. So what I'm doing here is that I'm setting every user session that the query engine that will be used, query underscore engine that will be used, all right, would always be what? Query underscore engine. So what I've done here, ladies and gentlemen, is very, straightforward, right? I've defined my session. Anytime a session starts, let it be that, a query engine is initiated, and that uses the data that we have, right? So if 1 million users are using this application, it will always work, right? Now, the next thing we want to do now is define another decorator. We're going to call it on message. How did I know? Very simple, right? On message is here. Look at it. On message. So that means that anytime a message is sent from Chainlit, right, it's going to implement this asynchronous function. Remember what I told you about asynchronous? I want you to study about it. It's a very good programming technique where you can be able to manage multiple responses, especially when you are building production-ready applications. All right. So define this asynchronous function, all right, and then query underscore engine. Again, I'll define query engine as user session. That is, every time somebody sent a message, I get the user session, all right, and then I get what? I get the query engine, all right. So I'm just going to have this argument, query underscore engine, all right, and then almost done, almost done. Wow, boy. Response equal to, so I'm going to await. So what I will do is I will await cl dot make underscore async. On all of these things, we check the documentation, they are there. You just have to be creative about it. So I'm going to use the query engine, all right, dot query, and then pass an argument here called message. So what I'm doing here is that I'm going to trigger the query engine to process the user's message and then generate a response, right? So that means anytime somebody types something in our chat, right, it will trigger a response, and that's what that line of code is doing. The next line of code is response. So let's define response underscore message. That is, what should be the response? So cl.message, this is another function that comes with Chainlit. Let's just define the content and then make it a blank string for now. All right, make it a blank string for now. Now, so that's going to hold the response that is coming. Oh, look at that. That's going to try an error. Okay. Wow. All right. So now this is where the juice part comes in. So we just say for token. All right. So this is like a loop, as we all know. For token in response underscore gen. So by the way, response underscore gen comes with, is the generator that comes with llama index, right? So I'm calling it off response. I've defined response here, this variable. So I'm calling response underscore gen, right? So I'm going to iterate through it. So for that, then of course, what I'm going to do is I'm going to await, all right, response underscore message dot stream underscore token. So what I'm doing here is now I'm going to be using the token, right? That is within each of the loop. Each token is then streamed to the response message. Remember what we said at the beginning of our conversation, that transformers work with input and a sequence of output. So as the sequence of outputs are coming, they are like tokens. So for each of the loops, so take for instance, saying, hello, how are you? Thank you. So every token in GPT is about 4 words. So for each of the tokens, so that's why you see that it's going to be hard. It's going to be like it's typing. So that is what is responsible for that. All right. So I've done that. Then the last, line of code, last step is I'm not going to do if. So if statement here. So the if will now be if the response.response text. So for each of the responses that are coming, they are text. If it exists, then we would know that indeed the response has come. So let's implement that. So response response underscore txt, right? So I'm calling response text, then response underscore message, all right, dot contents, all right, equals to response.response underscore txt, right? So the text is assigned to the content attribute of the response message. That's what is happening here. So the response message, get my point here, please. The response message, that is this, we've defined it here, which is currently empty. So the content that is coming from our response text will be what? Will be assigned to the response message. So by the time a response will be coming, it won't be blank again. And ladies and gentlemen, the last line of code is now, we're going to await this and then say response underscore message dot send. So this is the point where I'm going to be sending all the response to the user. And that's the line of code. Very simple. So let's quickly run this. I know that I can feel Uche pinching me in Lekon. Get out of my sight. Uche, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. So let's quickly run this. So we just do chainlets run app.py, and then I'm going to watch it. So let's watch it so that we just see what it looks like. If all of, oh no, sorry, one point. We've not done something. What data are we going to use? I love this. Look at that. It tells us, it says, look, you don't even have an engine. So what exactly are you talking about? So we need to use the data, right? So control, let's just kill this terminal. I mean, programming is so sweet. It's telling us, guy, I don't see anything in data folder. That's exactly what this line of code is. So let's quickly go get data. So I want us to use DSN's bootcamp, right? So we're going to be, our model is going to be picking from here. So I'll just download it as PDF. So download this as PDF. We're almost done. So just Control P this, so save it as PDF. So I'm just going to save it, save. So let me just save it inside bootcamp, live session, data, save. Okay, so I've saved that. All right. So now let's run this again. I believe all other things being equal. Okay, let's confirm if it is there. Okay, it's there. So let's see what's going to happen. So let's see. Okay, it says cannot import. Oh, look at that. Retriever, the spelling is wrong. Where is that? It says cannot import retriever from Llama Index query engine. Where is that? Let me remember this guy. Oh, okay. Look at that. I missed the spelling. It should be retriever. Okay, so let's try that one more time. Okay, so it's loading the environment variable. Wow, look at that. App is ready. App is ready. So let's ask questions about DSN's stuff, right? So let's ask questions like, let's say, register for AI in city, blah, blah, blah. So can we ask a question like, and I want you guys to ask me questions, right? Ask this guy questions. So what are the requirements for participation in the AI bootcamp? Look at that. So let's see what's going to happen. The requirement for participation in the AI bootcamp are not explicitly mentioned in the context, right? So not explicitly. Okay, let's see another thing. Oh, is it not? Okay, let's see. Okay, let's see benefit of a host. Let's see that. What are the benefits of the hosts? Let's see that. The benefit of hosts for the AI bootcamp include recognition within the DSN community, ranking for future benefits, blah, blah, blah. You see how that is working? So I think there's name response is not defined. Let me quickly, I think there's a bug somewhere. It shouldn't be giving me that name response is not defined. Response. Look at that. I caught it. I caught it. So save it. And the good thing about Chainlit is that you see that as I am updating, let's write that again. So it reloads the server for me, right? So what are the benefits for a hosts? So this should work well. Where is that? What just happened? For token in response gen, response stream the token, and the response. So I just saved this again, and So I come back here and then I can ask, so, but you can see the beauty of what this is all about. So this is my document. And if the document does not exist, it's able to tell me, right, that, oh, this content you're looking for does not exist. For instance, if I ask benefit of a tutor, right, I can say, what are the benefits of a tutor, right? And then boom, it goes to my knowledge base and then it's able to extract the content. So say that benefit of a tutor, recognition within the DSN. So you see the power of language model at your fingertips, right? It means that you can literally, right, build on top of your knowledge. And this is entirely local. Everything here is local. And that's the beauty of this, right? And time will not permit us to talk more about chain leads, but look at this. Everything that I've asked, look at that. I can see them here. So for every user, when your customers are using your app, they can see their last messages, right? They can switch, they can have some settings, it's beautiful. I can customize this README. All I have to do is just come into my Chainlit MD and then I customize this and that's it. So guys, I believe that I believe that we're all excited about the opportunities here for us to build. What we just built is using our content. Not only that, you can even see the sources where it is pulling the information from, right? It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I believe that, and apologies, Uche, so sorry for overshooting. But I believe that
we are all together. And for those of us on the panel, I would expect clap and our fire emojis to appreciate Lekon for that in-depth section where we just went through. Thank you very much, Lekon. I know the time